Hello everyone, and thanks for joining me again. Today we're going to look at the Fetch API. We're going to use it to reach out across the web and grab up some data. And that data looks like this. And as you can see, this is a big mess. So how are we going to extract the information that we need? Well, first we look at the overall data object, and it's called cards. So that will be our entry point. And then it consists of an array of many different objects, each representing a character in the game Magic the Gathering. I'm not too familiar with Magic the Gathering, but if you are, you'll probably recognize some of the names that we see here. So the first character, you look at the name property, and we have the value ancestors chosen. Also, we want to extract the type of character. So we look at the type property, and we see that it's a creature, a human cleric. And we'd also like to get an image, so we'll look at the image URL property and we'll get its value to display not just an image of the character, but an image of the card from the card game that contains the character's image on it. Alright, so we're going to use the Fetch API, and it says here the Fetch API provides a JavaScript interface for accessing and manipulating parts of the HTTP pipeline, such as requests and responses. It also provides a global fetch method that provides an easy, logical way to fetch resources asynchronously across the network. So as you can see, MDN web docs are always, well not always, but usually pretty well written, and in this case you can see that the writing quality does shine through. And since it's dealing with asynchronous behavior, we're going to have to use, as you can guess, a promise. And they give us some code right here for us to use, and you can see that we are indeed going to use a promise. But for now, since we're going to display this information on a web page, let's go ahead and create an HTML file. And I'm using Visual Studio Code for the first time here, so bear with me if things don't go smoothly. Alright, and we'll give this page a title of Fetch API tutorial. And right away, let's go ahead and add a heading tag and just see if this works. Say this is a test. Alright, and we'll run our live server. Okay, and we can see that it's working. But we're not going to be using, or we're going to be using a heading tag, but not right now. Actually, let's go ahead and just set that up. We'll say this is the name of the character. But we're not going to enter the hard code in the text. We'll also put in a button above that just so we can call up the information on demand. And we'll say this button has an ID of get character. Right, and it'll have the same text as the button text. Get character. Alright, so you can see we've got our button here. Our h1 tag is no longer displaying any information because we haven't given it any yet. So now what we'll do is we'll activate this button. We'll use JavaScript to do that. We'll say document.get element by ID, and this is get character. We're going to use the onClick method, so we'll add an event listener. Click. And we're going to call up a function which we'll also just call get character. Okay, so let's define that function now. Get character. And let's first just make sure that our function returns what we want it to return. So we'll say document get element by ID, and this time we'll use the ID of the h1 tag, which is name, because we're going to send our information there. HTML, we'll say that equals, and we'll just let it equal a string. This is where the character name goes. Alright, so hopefully when we click our button, we get that string of text. And we do. Good, so our function's working, but this is obviously not what we want. What we want is the character's name, the first character in that array of characters. So if we go back and look at the data, right, we see that overall this object is called cards, right, and then it has an array, and we're going to look at index 0, which means the first element of that array, and the first property, which is name. Alright, so first we need to use fetch to get that data and bring it in. So we'll just copy this and paste it into our code. Alright, and we need the URL of our Magic the Gathering data, which is this here. We'll put that in here, as we should. But I'm just going to clean things up a little bit, make things a little bit more compact. We don't need to use the whole word response, we can just use res. We'll say res.json, it's going to be a JSON response. Okay. Again, we'll do the same thing here. All right, we're not going to call it my JSON, we'll call it data, just to make things easy. Right, and then actually let's bring this up in here. Okay, so what is it that we want to display? Well, we want to display the data of the object cards at the element or the character at index 0 and the name property or the name value. All right, so hopefully that will display, as we saw before, ancestors chosen. Okay, so if we go there, we save our data, we get it. As you see that slight delay just because this is asynchronous, it's not going to come as quickly as if we were fetching the data from an internal file. Let's do that one more time just so you can see that slight delay. Well, actually, sorry. Well, there was a delay there too. So I guess basically just because we're calling this up, anything that happens is going to happen after it brings in all the data. But I think you get the point. So anyway, we're able to get the character's name. That's all right. Also, we know that we want to get the character's type. So we can just change a few things here. And here. Okay, and now we have the name, but not the type. Oh, I have to create an element to display it. All right, and we'll use an h2 tag this time, and we'll give it an ID of, you guessed it, type. All right, so now things should be all right. Good. So we get the name and we get the type. Alright, so now finally what we would like is an image. So to display an image we need a URL for our SRC. So we'll say that equals, and just like before, data, and this is cards. At element, or index 0, and this was, if you recall, image URL. Okay, so we have that, and we'll define an image, or we'll create a place for an image. Alright, and then we'll attach that src to our image. And then we'll append it to the body of the page. Okay, so hopefully that gives us that image that we're expecting to get. So now let's run it. Okay, and we get it. So we used the fetch API to get 3 pieces of information from a big ugly mess of data. Remember this right here. And you could probably guess that if we take our time, we could figure out a way to loop through all of this data and display each and every one of those characters, say with those 3 properties that we were interested in looking at. So anyway, I hope that this tutorial was helpful for you, and that you've maybe become more interested in trying to use the fetch API to gather information from across the web. And I hope you'll join me next time. Thank you very much.